Chairman, we are now live.
Good evening, everybody. And welcome to this meeting of the Executive of the Council. I'm Councillor Jeff Brooks. I'm the Acting Leader of West Berkshire Council. In case you trip over Deputy Leader, Acting Leader, Leader, why don't you call me Chairman? I've been called a lot worse, particularly on doorsteps. But anyway, you can call me what you want to call me. So welcome. And straight into it, I think we do have our peer review team, a couple of people from our peer review team. We welcome them at the back as well. And we will get straight to it, I think. Apologies for absence, please.
We've got apologies from councillors Tony Vickers and Lee Dillon.
Thank you very much. We have people on screen, and I know, Sadie, you're going to remind me if I miss. Yeah. Councillor.
Councillor Wollaston is on his way.
Thanks very much. We then have the minutes to the previous meeting. Are we happy to accept those as an accurate record of the meeting held on the 14th of December 2023? Do I have a proposer or any comments? I'm happy to propose them myself.
Happy to
seconder. Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favour? Then the minutes are accepted. Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. And have we had any declarations of interest?
I've not received any, no, Chairman.
Not received any. Thank you very much. And then we're straight into public questions. There is 30 minutes of public questions. Councillor Barry, sorry.
Sorry, Deputy Leader. Councillor Wollaston has just advised me that he's run out of time and he'll be dialing in.
It's a minute by minute update on Councillor Wollaston's peregrinations tonight. Thank you very much. So we are into public questions, and I call Mr. William Beard to ask his question, which will go up on the screen momentarily. Do we have Mr. Beard in the waiting in the room or in the Zoom?
Mr. Beard should be in the room.
Then Mr. Beard, I invite Mr. Beard to come forward to the lectern, please. And Mr. Beard is not coming forward, Mr. Ryan. So unless he's a ghost, he's not in the room. And therefore, I'm going to give a little bit of latitude. Let's see. Let's go on, and maybe we'll come back to Mr. Beard. The next one is from Town Councillor, Thatcham Town Councillor Simon Pike. Is Mr. Pike, Councillor Pike, available, Mr. Ryan?
He's not on Zoom, so he should be in the room.
He's not in the room? Or these phantoms are in the room somewhere, Ben. You know, well done you. Okay, now I know the next one is in the room. Come forward, Mr. Goatley, number C, please. Okay, and this will be answered by our portfolio holder for climate action, recycling, biodiversity, Mr. Stuart Gorley.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Goatley, for your question. The flow from the Thames water can be considered natural flow as much as any flow from any surface water can be. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you for that answer. It was obviously written by an officer, but so perhaps we can answer this. If it's natural flow, you know as well as I do that I've got the Kennet to the south of me, I've got the Enbourne to the north of me, both rivers breaching banks. Ours moved by about 3 inches. Never got anywhere near breaching bank. If that's natural flow, why not?
Unfortunately, you know, I'm not a technical expert, so I won't be able to tell you that, unfortunately. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Therefore, you will get a written answer. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goatley. Number D. Number D is one that I will take in Councillor Vickers' absence if Mrs. Alison May, Ms. May is available. She's not in the room, Ben, before you try that little trick. Ben, I'm teasing you.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's not on Zoom either.
Then that'll be a written answer. If you're watching Zoom, Ben, and you see Councillor Pike or Mr. Beard arrive, can you just let me know, please? And then I'm into E. Is Mr. Garvey available? Is he on Zoom? Is he available? Mr. Ryan?
Mr. Garvey is available via Zoom.
So I'm going therefore to answer the question as we have Mr. Garvey on Zoom. And the question is on the screen. Thank you. And I'm answering this in the leader and executive portfolio holder of public safety's absence. Mr. Garvey, officers quite rightly highlighted a number of potential risks in relation to the withdrawal of the local plan, and this was given full consideration. This administration are firmly of the view that an alternative spatial strategy will be hugely beneficial for the district and felt that this should be pursued. As you know, however, the Secretary of State has directed us to continue to examination, and that is what will happen. Do you have a supplementary, Mr. Garvey?
Yes, I do. Thank you, and I don't know if congratulations is in order for your new responsibilities, but the fact is, in Thatcham, obviously, withdrawal would have led to, or potentially led to, up to 8,000 new houses just in Thatcham, and then 500 homes at Pincers Hill, which would have flown in the face of manifesto commitments made at the local election. My concern is, as well, is that I've been told by members of the council, members of the administration, that a deal is close to that Colthrop on the floodplain and also at the Kennett Centre in Newbury. But when it's if the bridge is put in and all of the traffic from those houses come out at the same spot as where the Thatcham Northeast would be, doesn't that dilute the argument about the lack of infrastructure for Thatcham Northeast? So I guess my question is, are we potentially risking any arguments against Thatcham Northeast by pledging to build thousands of houses on the flood zone at Thatcham Station?
Sir, I'm not sure. You started by saying the fact is that we would get 8,000 houses. That's your fact, Mr. Garvey. It's not a fact that I... Hang on, sir, if I may be allowed to finish.
Sure.
It is not a fact I recognise. By all means, please write to me and describe exactly why you can make a statement of that many thousands. Infrastructure has been a worry to us, however many houses are built in Thatcham, Mr. Garvey. And frankly, decades ago, you know, you've lived there, it didn't have the infrastructure until we started to provide it in the 90s. We don't want that to happen again. I'm not sure if that's a direct answer to your question, but I think we're agreeing a bit here, except for your point about the many thousands of houses you seem to think we would get instead of the plan. And in terms of Colthrop, I'm aware that the potential developers have come forward. That will make its way through the planning app process if they put a planning app in, Mr. Garvey. I'm going to move on, sir. But you know you can write to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Question F, which is Mr. James Davis. You'd like to come forward to the lectern, sir? And this is to Councillor Codling.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for your question. This is an important issue for us, and I need to give you some background as to what's been happening and where we are now. Bit of a history, sorry. The council undertook a feasibility study during 2021 financial year, and this was signed off at Project Board on the 1st of February 2021. This was during the COVID pandemic, and we didn't come out of COVID until May 2022. After over 2 years of intensive work on keeping other things going within our schools. We then unfortunately had some staff sickness over the summer term of 2022, which delayed things further. The project brief was fully reviewed, usual practice following a feasibility study, and signed off by the school and issued to the property department on the 6th of February 2023. Following the issuing of the project brief documentation to property on the 6th of February, the team sat down with the allocated project officer and their manager to go through the brief, through the project on the 7th of March. This is normal procedure following the issuing of a project brief. The project officer then commenced the development of a strategy for submission to the procurement board for the procurement of the architect. The project officer then developed the invitation to tender documentation and went out to tender at the beginning of June. Tenders were returned mid-July and the tender analysis process completed by the end of July. The capital works review commenced towards the end of June and the project was paused in August pending the outcome of the review. The project will be started in this coming financial year, 24-25, and this will be the design phase, with the build expecting to start in the next financial year. I can assure you here and to the school, the teachers and the parents that I personally will be keeping a close eye on this and getting regular updates. It's important that we achieve the new build as quickly as we can. Do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis. G is Mr. Morgan. You're not going to come up. You look so comfortable there, Paul. This one to Councillor Cottingham for Finance and Corporate Services.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Morgan. Hopefully you're feeling not too unwell. So a detailed listing of the capital programme for the financial year 23-24, totalling just under 70 million at 69.5 million, can be provided. The listing provided confirms the provisional planned financing of all projects. It should be noted final financing of projects is determined at the financial year outturn. Provisional financing is included in the list supplied. The 80.2 million programme for 24-25 was a programme approved by the previous administration and is superseded by a revised 24-25 capital programme, which will be shortly going through the formal budget approval process with public papers released for review. The revised capital programme, which is included within the budget papers, details line by line proposed projects and provisional funding. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, thank you for that. I did go through the Appendix A and it was very useful actually. I'll compliment you on that. So it did list all the projects. I think that's great. Now, my supplementary relates to, my first question was about the 23-24 budget as well. And originally that was 64.8 million. So I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I can. Let's take one example here. If you take the Newbury Sports Hub, on this latest budget, it says 2.3 million. On the 23-24, it was 4.125 million. Now, my question relates specifically to this particular project, but I think it relates to all other projects. So at the 4.125 million in the budget, it had 1.8 million was going to be spent in this financial year. Yeah. Reprofiling 2.3 million, which goes into next year's budget. So my question is, that 1.8 million, I guess some have been spent. We know some of it. We know about £250,000 been spent on the Faraday Way football ground. My question is it a case of use it or lose it, or does that balance of 1.5 million go into the next year's budget? That's my question. Bit wordy, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
We deal with those sorts of either underspends or overspends at year end. So it's not a simple case. It naturally rolls over. All depend, it's all within the, as you see in later papers, the 24 to 34 capital expenditure programme. So we will make adjustments accordingly.
So can you advise them when if it does or doesn't go over? That's my question, really.
This is a supplement. This is a supplement.
Well, it's a supplementary. I haven't been answered it, so, I'm just asking.
Giving you some latitude.
So it will be in the outturn papers of June, July. So you'll find out then. So once we've then done all of the, I suppose, year-end adjustments, that's when it will appear.
And I presume that relates to all other projects, not just that one. I'm just trying to be generic here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Okay. Our next one up then is H. Mr. Pearce to Councillor Lewis.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Pearce. As you know, work has now been completed at Faraday Road, where the contractors had all their equipment on site, and that was surrounded by the Harris fencing to keep the public safe from that equipment. So as that equipment is moved away, the Harris fencing is being moved away.
So when will it, but the question, when will it be moved away?
So the question will be, the answer is, it is due to be moved away. We just have to make sure that everything is safe. And then once it is, then that will be moved away. And at the moment, it's just there to keep people safe, keep people off the pitch, perhaps whilst it's a bit wet.
Yeah.
But yes, it will be moved.
Okay, if there was a supplementary question, please, I think you answer. I noticed it's looking a bit scruffy down there, and I gather about £155,000 has been spent on the fences at each end and some fencing around the porter cabin. So why has the fencing not been finished, and what's your plans for the side of the foot by the car park? There's no fencing there.
I'm going to give you a bit of latitude, but I think you're straying a little bit off the security, but I'll give you a bit of latitude.
So the fencing at the moment is to protect the buildings on the other side, just to make sure that you haven't got balls going over that way. But the rest of the spend at Faraday Road will come in the next phase of consultation.
So you're not planning to do any fencing down that side at the moment?
That will come in the next phase of consultation.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goatley, you're back up. Question I to Councillor Sturgis, who I welcome to the front bench. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Mr. Goatley. Nice to meet you. So thank you for your question as well. So the Avison Young environmental appraisal was commissioned to inform the previous development brief for Bond Riverside, the London Road Industrial Estate, which was for the council or a partner to comprehensively redevelop the site as a whole. So now that a site-by-site approach is being taken, the specific advice regarding undertaking a comprehensive redevelopment is less relevant. However, the findings of the study are still being considered and will help inform decisions going forward. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please. And thank you for that answer. As an avid reader of the Bond Riverside updates, we haven't had one since October. There's been promise in that update of various work going ahead, which doesn't seem to have gone ahead. And all that's happened on that estate is that certain two companies have been very good at dodging planning conditions and have been working without permission. But where does this lead?
I'm going to jump in on that point, sir. If you believe that, I hope you relayed that to planning enforcement.
I have.
Very good. We'll take that offline. I think you're talking updates. So is that your question? Do you want to put it again?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering what is actually happening there. Because as I say, I've read the updates, but there hasn't been one for ages.
Okay, I'll take that away and discuss it with officers and come back to you, Mr. Goatley, but thank you for raising it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So my next one up is back to Mr. Garvey. And I think this is me again. I'm going to take this in the leader and executive portfolio holder for public safety's absence. Mr. Garvey, thank you. We've consulted on these matters. I want to note a few things, if I may, please. Whilst there were strong objections to the closure of Willow's Edge, there was a very balanced response to the option of handing it over to an independent provider. On that basis, we will now pursue that option to identify an alternative provider to take over Willow's Edge over the coming months. That is a consultation process told us that we please note that there was interest expressed by some independent providers in taking over the running of the service. So we think that's a viable option. We're going to test that market now. On the wider point, we've made very good progress in terms of managing the council's financial position. We're by no means out of the woods. If you look at the budget papers, and you'll hear the quarter three outturn tonight. So we do need to look to adopt a range of measures. Further delay, which you're suggesting, when the challenge is so significant, would not be a responsible position to take in the view of the administration. Do you have a supplementary, Mr. Garvey?
I do. So obviously we have emailed on this previously, and this question was because of the way that you have to submit the questions. It's, I think, more than 10 days in advance to make sure that if it's not something that's discussed at a meeting, that's why they were submitted so early in advance. I'm not asking for further delay. Obviously, these questions were submitted prior to the budget announcement. What I'd like to happen, and again, I'm just one resident, so take that with a pinch of salt. But what I'd like to happen is, starting after the full council meeting, or sooner if we can, to have a wider discussion about adult social care provision within West Berkshire. And like I've expressed to you, I think a public trust, a charitable trust to take over public service, adult social care services in the district would be a way to guarantee, the finances for the council, and also open up other avenues of funding for those services. So I appreciate.
Sorry, sir. The question, sir, please.
I was just going to say, I appreciate your answer. That's the point I was making.
Okay. So let me answer the question you didn't put. You emailed me. I read it. I took it on board. Nothing you've said stops us going ahead with this consultation, which we will do. So I've noted what you said in terms of a conversation about the provision of care. We will consider that, sir. Does that help? Perhaps not.
Yeah, it does. I think that fits in. Like I said to you before, this question was submitted prior to us talking, and prior to the leader stepping down, and prior to all of that stuff. So that's the context I was giving you. But thank you for your answer.
Right, thank you. Is Mr. Morgan? Again, you can stay there if you want to, sir, if you're not feeling too great. This one back to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morgan, once again for your question. So the council is considering the sale of assets across its investment portfolio, and has already brought some assets for disposal, and will likely do so in the next financial year. Any sales will be completed in a measured way and assessed on their own merits. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, if I may. The 13.1 million, which is directly owned property, which is not funded by borrowing, clearly is something I would guess that's quite attractive if you sold those assets. So my specific, are you open to offers on any of the LRA industrial estate plots of land? That's my question.
Do you mind? Any disposal of any land on Bond Riverside will be part of a plan and a strategy, which we are looking at afresh. Bond Riverside, Faraday Road estate has been a vexed issue for many years. You know that, I know that. So we're not going to rush it, because we got a shot at it now to get it right.
You haven't been rushing it. This has been going on for many years, as you know. But yeah, I've just asked a question. I thought it'd be a useful question to get in the open.
Take it away. Thank you. Thank you. The next one, Mr. Pearce, to Councillor Lewis.
Hello again, Mr. Pearce. So with regards to Faraday Road, it is now open for booking. The executive are undertaking the Stage E review. And with that, the play picture strategy is we're going to have a comprehensive approach to the play pitch strategy, and we're going to be looking to the wider part of the district, to the four corners, the quiet corners, the Purleys, the Streetleys, the East Ilseys, the Lambournes. So the potential for any further development at Faraday Road is going to be considered as a whole, as a part of that strategy when we receive it. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you for your answer. Yes, I do, please. I asked this question because I'll talk to members of the public. They perceive that a new football stadium is going to be rebuilt, a fully functioning stadium at Faraday Road. So can you just confirm, please, that the council has no plan to rebuild a fully functioning football stadium at Faraday Road?
I can't confirm, I can't deny, because it's going to be part of the play pitch strategy. When we get the Stage E review, we've got a whole district to look at. I will say, wouldn't it be wonderful
No, I will say thank you. You've confirmed that you've no plan to rebuild a stadium.
No, I don't think that was confirmed at all, Mr. Pearce. Please don't put words in our mouth. We have neither said we have a plan or not have a plan. We are looking at it, the Playing Peak strategy, the stage E review, and right across the district. So
Sorry, Chairman. Yeah, no, sorry,
the
Chairman. I took that the way it was said that you didn't have any plan to build a stadium at this moment in time. That's what I was trying to get out to the public. That's why I asked the question.
When the stage E review is complete, you'll know.
Yeah, so you may have in the future, but not at the moment.
When the stage E review is complete, you'll know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Goatley again, please. M. To Councillor Sturgis again, I think, please.
Thank you again for the question, Mr. Goatley. So flood and drainage matters will be taken into account as part of consideration of any planning applications which may be submitted, informed by the relevant and current sections of the Flood and Water Management Act 2010. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your answer. Schedule 3 basically brings in SUDS mandatory and other conditions. So if you operate piece by piece, you're inevitably still going to have a strategy of flooding other people's land, as is currently going at the moment. How can this be?
That's something for me to take away, as I'm not a technical expert, but I'll come back to you with a written response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cody. Back to Mr. Garvey, please, for question N to Councillor Gawley.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey, for your question. Yes, the impact of a reduction in dog waste and litter bins and verge maintenance was assessed whilst preparing the proposal for public consultation. With regards to dog waste, oh dear, apologies. With regards to dog waste and litter bins, following consultation, we've decided not to take the saving. And as reflected on a manifesto, we intend to make an offer to the parish and town councils as they may wish to assist in this provision to provide more multi-use bins for both litter and dog waste. With regards to verges, any reduction in cutting frequency would ensure critical sight lines are not affected. Do you have a supplementary?
I do. And again, these questions were submitted long before the budget was announced. I guess my concern on the verges, and thank you for not removing the dog bins and the rubbish bins, by the way, but on the grass verges, I noticed that there is still a provision within the budget for next year for the grass verges. Can you confirm that we'll at least prioritise those smaller roads in the rural areas that are going to be more dangerous? So I give a perfect example: Snake Lane between Stockcross and Woodspeed, Embourne Road, Crookham Hill. Any reduction, the grass on those roads gets pretty long already, and it's already difficult to see what's coming around the corner, especially Snake Lane, which I don't know how many of you know that road. It's single track most of the way. So can we make sure that we're not going to see an increase in accidents on those roads? So is that part of your strategy to prioritise those roads, and do you have a list of hotspots that we could find out where those priorities are?
So, public safety will absolutely be prioritised and sight lines maintained where they are needed. What I would also advise is that if residents do see grass and issues, that they use the report a problem page on the council website to report, so that the highways team and the countryside team can prioritise those areas, and also phone through to customer services if they don't have web access. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey.
Thank you.
On to O, which is Mr. Morgan again. Can put it without you being there, sir. And that's to Councillor Cottingham again.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for your question. Yes, the council is proposing to utilise the sale of any funds released for 3 main areas. Firstly, the replacement of council borrowing in the future to reduce forecast capital financing costs. Secondly, to fund activity through the existing flexible use of capital receipts. And thirdly, to increase the general fund or other fund other activities pending the government's review of options for the future use of capital receipts and any other uses as may be deemed suitable from time to time. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, it is, surprisingly. This should be my simplest one today. It's just helping with my sort of understanding of it, really. So going back to my previous question about saying an asset that you own outright, so could you use that, let's say it's £1 million, £2 million, could you use that to sort of support the balance of the books, or does it have to go back into capital? That's what I'm trying to understand. Could you use, if you don't own any money on it, could you use it however you want, really?
Right. This is quite a technical answer to your simple question. So it depends. So currently at the moment, we can use flexibly capital receipts to fund transformation. So they're within the current rules. So we can have the ability to effectively move revenue transformation costs into capital. We're awaiting the response from the government from the consultation, which is due, I think, the middle of this month, which will give us a greater understanding of whether or not further receipts can be used, as you put it, to offset against revenue overspend.
Okay.
However, we do believe that this will have to be done in a very measured way to make sure that we are not effectively storing up a problem for the future.
Thank you. So that's a maybe, yeah, but I thank you. Thank you.
I then have Mr. Pearce again, I think, P to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pearce, for your question. So, yes, the sale of West Street House has always been part of the office accommodation project, Time Lord 2. Considerations about future office locations for the council will be considered in due course. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, please. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. So obviously the council a few years back did have aspirations for a new office. I've looked round and can't see anywhere else it could go. So Faraday Road is a possibility. Is it for new council offices?
At the moment, we have made no decision, and I believe it is a project which we're looking at the long-term future of Market Street. So until we have the results of that feasibility study, that's where we are. So nothing's in, nothing's out. So at the moment, we're looking at the long-term future. As you well know, the way in which COVID has impacted hybrid working. So there's lots of questions which we need to address regarding, I suppose, the greater use of flexible working as well and location.
Thank you for your answer. I get that. So it is a possibility. Thank you.
And then I have question Q, I think, from Mr. Garvey.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Garvey. Thank you for your question and the full contents I've noted, but it does come within my response, which is Faraday Road is going to be a part of a bigger picture. When we get the Stage E review back, then we'll be looking at the playing pitch strategy and looking at all the priorities and developing ideas further from there. Do you have a supplementary?
I do. It was great to see that you went to Dorking Wanderers the other week. It's a great example of what I'd like to mention in my supplementary. So it'd been previously mentioned at council in executive and full council meetings that the sports hub did not conform to or restrict Newbury from getting so far in the football leagues. But as you can see from your visit to Dorking, they've put that stadium together over the years. To put it into context, for Newbury to reach even the level that Dorking are at, it would take maybe 20 years if they did it at the same trajectory. Dorking being one of the Cinderella stories of non-league football. My supplementary would be, have you considered building almost like a Lego stadium? And what I mean by that is you can buy temporary stands, temporary fencing, temporary lighting, temporary bar facilities even, that could then be moved or relocated as needed, but would allow Newbury to return. Or I guess the main answer is, can we will we see Newbury return to Faraday Road this August or for the coming season? I guess that's the short answer, the short question.
Okay, thank you again for your supplementary. Again, we have to look at the playing pitch strategy as a whole. The idea of visiting somewhere like Dorking, and there's a few other sites we're going to go along to, is not just to see what they've produced, but it's also to learn from their stories. So we want very much to have something in West Berkshire that we can have a successful football team playing at, but we do have to review everything as a whole.
Thank you. And then I think Mr. Garvey with a final question from the public to Councillor Gaines, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Garvey, and thank you for your question. I can confirm that there's no proposal to reduce capital spend on the flood alleviation of drainage work. The council, however, recently consulted on a range of revenue savings proposals due to the significant financial challenges and the incredibly difficult decisions the council is facing to set a balanced budget. A reduction in gully cleaning was one of those proposals. The budget papers have now been released, as you've mentioned earlier, and it will be apparent that no reduction of the budget for clearing drains or gullies is recommended to this council. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, but it's more of a point of question, really, and this might go to the chair. Could the council consider shortening the number of working days to ask questions? A lot of my questions today are almost past their sell-by date because you have to ask them 10 working days or more in advance in order to make sure that you can get a response. I think the wording on the website is if it's either 2 working days if it's already on the agenda, but we don't get the agenda until 7 days before the meeting. So if we have to ask questions to guarantee that they get into public questions, it's 10 working days before. So could the council take away, expect an answer today, but could you take away consideration to maybe reduce that to maybe a week in advance or 5 working days? And that way, if it had been 5 working days, these questions tonight might not have been needed, sorry.
Mr. Garvey, there's a lot of latitude there because your supplementary should really refer to your actual question, but I'm going to give you that latitude. I think you should write to us. You can email me. I'm not making any promises. There is a constitution review task group going to be set up and starting, I think, this month. And they will look at those sort of issues. But as I say, I'm not promising, but there is a mechanism to review it, sir.
I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that concludes, and I think we're about 33 minutes, got through all of them, I think. And Sadie, I'm ever so sorry, I didn't read out the preamble. My bad. So I'm going to go on to petitions. Number 5. Are there any petitions that we're aware of? Okay. Then I'm going to go on to the item 6. Now I am going to read out a small preamble here. And this is not a surprise to members that this evening we will be referring the budget papers through executive as a recommendation to full council taking place on the 29th of February. We do that without debate. This is not the budget debate. We would expect a full debate on these papers at council. So we're not going to have the debate twice. If there is any aspect of the paperwork where there would appear to be an irregularity, a process issue, that is something we would receive from members. I'm grateful to Councillor Culver because 2 nights ago, she chaired the scrutiny commission, which committee, I think it is now, isn't it? Committee or commission, which was a first actually in my recall of the budget going through scrutiny. And thank you for doing that. And that would have been another place to capture any irregularity in process or accuracy. And I've not heard any feedback on that yet. So in a roundabout way, I'm saying we're receiving these without debate, unless somebody points out something that might even be, ultra vires. I can't see that. But anyway, Councillor Cunningham, if you would introduce the MTFS, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just building upon your statement, we had quite a thorough debate chaired by Councillor Culver on Tuesday night. probably there's quite a number of people still in the room from Tuesday. I can go through the detail, but maybe worth just opening up to any further questions which members have. As I say, are there any questions regarding the MTS? On the basis it is a steer of where we're going to be going, the direction of travel. It's inadvertently always out of date. The timeliness of the information is provided, and because of the recent announcements from central government regarding funding for 24-25, some of the assumptions have been updated into the new papers as well for the budget as well, and we're also awaiting for the consultation results from the flexible use of capital receipts. So hopefully procedurally we haven't missed anything.
And before I open it up for any questions, points of clarification, the recommendation is for members to approve the MTFS, although I would have thought that the full budget would be the approval, and this is to recommend to full council. So that's not strictly true, is it? You are proposing that the executive recommend this MTFS to the full council for deliberation and determination on the 29th of February. You're the proposer.
I'm proposing.
You're proposing, yes. Do you? I will second that. And now I will see if there are any questions, queries from members. No. Councillor McKinnon, good evening, sir. I hope you're well.
I am, thanks, Deputy Leader. I'm a bit better than I was on Tuesday. I just wanted to say that we support what you said there about the budget papers. We're not going to have a substantive debate, certainly from our group. And I'd also like to just take this opportunity to welcome Councillor Sturgis to the executive and congratulate her on her appointment.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you, sir. Therefore, I think we need a vote to say that we're going to formally recommend it. I don't see anybody else asking to question. So all those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Now, it's the same procedure on the investment borrowing strategy. So again, Councillor Cottingham will introduce it. I suspect he will then propose, and I will second. Same formula, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So yes, I would like to formally propose that we adopt the investment and borrowing strategy document 24-25.
Yeah. And I'm seconding that, and then I'm looking for any points of clarification. I've got Councillor Culver.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, as you mentioned, we had the first ever scrutiny meeting about the budget specifically. I won't comment on every item, but bearing in mind how close it was to the executive and the subsequent full council, I think in future years it would be quite good if we could start the process a bit earlier. So much of the discussion that we had was about clarification, but on the investment and borrowing strategy, members were minded to recommend to the executive that we're very cautious about the divestment of property. And as members will be aware, we did have a previous special meeting looking at the property strategy, but members on Tuesday evening did indicate that they would like me to pass that message on to the executive, that we should be very careful about the way we divest that property and the speed with which we do it. Thank you, Chairman.
I think Councillor Cottingham, we're noting that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I fully understand the feedback regarding from a risk perspective and also the economic cycle as well. And I think also potentially the announcement in 2 weeks' time will also have a huge impact on that, on what will happen across the wider sector from LGA commercial assets as well.
Thank you. Councillor Abbs.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess I'm just making sure that all of this that there's moving through, I know we're going to debate it the 29th, but we are, I believe, awaiting information about exactly how much we are to be given by the government of this 600 million that's being distributed. Do yourself, Mr. Cottingham, or maybe Joseph, have we received any information yet? Because our borrowing strategy will be aligned to what we're given, will it not? Or be impacted by it at least?
Thank you, Councillor Abbs. And Joseph Holmes will pick that one up.
Thank you, Councillor Labs. I know you dropped me a note earlier, so apologies for not responding, but respond here. So we made an estimate for these budget papers of the additional income we'd received because we didn't have the final local government finance settlement at that point. That estimate has actually been very close to actually what the final local government finance settlement has been. So we will adjust the papers. We think there's a difference of up to about £100,000. So those papers will be adjusted for full council, but it's not a really significant difference away from those estimates we made.
Right. So you're confirming we now know exactly what we're getting from government.
From the respect to the finance settlement, yes, we've had the final finance settlement.
Thank you.
So, again, members, what we're doing here is agreeing to recommend this to the full council for adoption as per the recommendations. And in fact, these paperwork is frankly the council paperwork, if you look at the recommendations, because it's asking council to resolve these things. So I'm asking executive to agree to recommend these papers, this document, to full council on the 29th. I've got a proposer in Councillor Cottingham. I'm seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Same procedure on the, now let me get this place right, on the actual capital strategy. I won't hang around, I'll go straight to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, once again, I would like to propose the adoption of the capital strategy financial years 2024 to 2034.
And I will second that. I already see Councillor Marsh with his hand up, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got two questions on the capital strategy. One relates to item 24, which is Falkland Primary School. And we heard a question from a member of the public earlier. I just wanted clarification from Councillor Cogling's answer to him. She said that the design phase will start in the coming financial year, but at the moment, there's no money in there at all. It's all been moved to 25-26. So does this mean that by the time that we debate this on the 29th, that there will be some shift of funding from next year, or rather the year after next, to the coming year, on the grounds that one presumes the design phase can't be done without any expenditure at all, and it would perhaps give some reassurance to the parents, governors and staff of Falkland School if there was some money in there for this design phase, which we have been told is going to start soon. I'm grateful. And then I've got one more question, but it's completely different subject.
Take that one first. Can we take that one first? Councillor Cottingham.
So thank you very much for your question. So yes, Joseph has just had a quick look. Yes, we can move capital expenditure between years up to a maximum of £250,000. I wouldn't have thought the initial sort of feasibility stage would be greater than that. So yes, there is the opportunity to move it forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Cottingham. And I have one other question, Councillor Brooks, Chair. It's just clarification, really. Can someone explain the difference, or indeed if there is a difference, between item 29, which refers to the playing pitch strategy, and item 250, which refers to the Newbury Sports Hub? They both seem to be doing exactly the same thing, providing pitches. And in total, it's quite a substantial amount if you add them together. Is that all going to happen in the coming financial year, and are they the same thing?
Councillor Cottingham will pick this up.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Marsh. It's all part of the consultation. So it is identifying monies for potential projects. And once we've had the results of those consultations, we'll then be able to assign. It's one of these scenarios whereby putting it in, it means that we do have funds. If we don't put it in there, we would potentially be left with no funds to be able to implement those items or projects.
Can you, thank you, that's helpful. Can you confirm that these are basically the same thing, though, the playing pitch strategy and the so-called now abandoned sports hub? Those are sums of money which are both allocated to, further to your consultation you refer to money for addressing the shortage of playing pitches in West Berkshire. Is that correct?
So from a technical accounting perspective, yes, they can be amalgamated together, but obviously that will be a decision made for members, exec, etc.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Technical accounting perspective.
I don't see anybody else indicating. So again, I'm looking for members to agree that this should be carried forward to the 29th of February. It's proposed. We're recommending it to council. Proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. And finally on this, but a necessary part of our process is the revenue budget. And again, back to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so I would like to propose that we obviously adopt this paper for future debate at full council on the 29th of February.
Happy to, so you're proposing that. I'm happy to second. And again, I'm looking around for any technical clarification. I've got Councillor Culver.
Thank you very much, Chairman. If you would indulge me for a moment, I'll just outline some of the key themes that we covered at Scrutiny Commission about this. I think we had the most lengthy and interesting debate about this particular item. We talked very much about the need for the council to look at long-term challenges like demographic challenges, for example, when considering what to do with adult social care, nursing homes and so on. We talked about special education.
People have hardly got any questions because they were all after.
Okay, we've got a phantom, something going on EastEnders or something, I expect. Back to Councillor Culver.
Thank you, Chairman. We talked about special educational needs, and it's something that we will look at on the scrutiny agenda in May. And Anne-Marie Dodds and I have had a discussion about that. We want to look at that in more detail because it's obviously a very big area of spend. We also talked about the issue of bins and whether the council should reduce bin clearances, and obviously the council decided not to do that, but left the question open about whether parish councils could do more of that in the future. I think that is worth exploring, but we did offer a note of caution at scrutiny that if that was to be done, to do it far enough in advance that parish councils can factor that into their precepts. So it may even be something that would need a couple of years to discuss that, just to make sure that if they do take on the bins, and I think there is an appetite from some parish councils to do that, to actually have control over that themselves, but they need to be able to budget for that in good time. And then we also, finally, Chairman, we talked about the fact that we have 40 members of the public that are costing the council about £10 million. And we said from the point of view of trying to get our heads around what those costs involve, it might be quite good to have some anonymised case studies so that we can actually look at the kind of needs that people have. And hopefully with a view to us coming up with some more useful feedback from Scrutiny Commission in the future about how we might be able to make savings. So just having that rich detail, I think, would make it a lot easier for us to make recommendations in the future. But I will leave it there, Chairman. Thank you.
I'm going to make a couple of comments, then I know Councillor Cottingham will want to come back. The most important thing we do as councillors is to keep people safe, to support the vulnerable. And that is what is consuming a lot of time, rightly so, a lot of money. And it is not a lament that 40 people around that figure can cost and is costing perhaps about £10 million. That's a huge amount of roads, of houses paying that council tax. But for the avoidance of doubt, we do not resent that. By all means, let's look at the pressures, why it is so expensive, not just to this council, but all across the country. So sorry, Councillor Culver, I wanted to put that in context. Back to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Culver. So I've had a bit of thought and processing over Tuesday night and a bit of discussion with Mr. Holmes as well. So one of the things which came out of me was there's quite a lot of benchmarking questions about our financial resilience and how we compare with other authorities. So as I say, we've had an earlier conversation today about can we produce a type of dashboard which looks at our financial resilience, looks at key KPIs, which drive the spend of of us as a council. So good example, how many people, how many clients we are servicing, both adult social care, children family services, what's the unit cost, what's the level of reserves, what's the weighted average cost of borrowing. So it's coming up with that type of dashboard, which then allows all councillors to really drill down rather than having a 300-page report, which sometimes it can be difficult to extract that detail of what the key drivers are for us to make sure that we are a resilient going concern of a council. So it's something which we'll be working towards, and then part of these processes of scrutiny, of debate, of producing almost that summary on the page with the detail behind.
Thank you. And so I'm going to take this in terms of recommending to council. You've proposed, I've seconded. I've got another little something for you to agree as well after this, so don't go home. So all those in favour of recommending this revenue budget to full council? Thank you very much. But if you then go to page 109, I'm also asking you, and I'll propose this, I'm sure Councillor Cottingham may second, that we approve a further consultation on options for the opportunity for all West Berkshire Council run care homes to be run by external providers rather than through our in-house provision. So we're approving tonight that further consultation, and that we also approve the fees and charges as set out in Appendix G of the revenue budget. I'm proposing that. Councillor Cottingham, happy to second?
I am, yes.
No questions. All those in favour of those two items, please. Thank you very much indeed. And where am I on the agenda? It's your show tonight, Councillor Cottingham, in terms of the next one is the Q3 revenue financial performance. You're to introduce. I'm happy to second your propose, and it's all set out on page 447. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you very much, Chair. Once again, we did have quite a thorough debate on Tuesday about the Q3 outcome. I think probably worth us having a little bit more time to just really understand the implications of the Q3 outcome, because ultimately this is the starting position for the next financial year. And this is probably also leads into the wider question about the fact that our accounts really have not been audited for the last 2 years. So there is a little bit of leap of faith in some ways, you know, coming as an accountant myself who used to work in internal audit, the fact that we are projecting the reserves to be roughly 4 million at the end of this financial year, so the starting position. The actual overspend has been reduced by 100k down to 3.2 million, with a lot of work being done by officers, which we see on a weekly basis within the financial review panel. I did sort of half jokingly say on Tuesday, it is a bit like playing whack-a-mole, where you try and drive down a cost here and then the cost pops up. Hopefully we will hit that 3.2 million overspend, which means, as I say, we start the year 4 million of reserves. So it is going to be quite obviously a tough year regarding 24-25. And as I say, we from a member's perspective, we do feel that there is significant engagement across the organisation, an understanding of the perilous nature of our finances, to make sure that we are delivering, as I say, balanced budget, and also, as I say, making sure that we are delivering those key services we have a duty of care to the most vulnerable in West Berkshire, and we will not be reducing that level of high quality services to those in need from both adult and children family services.
Thank
So
you,
I'd like to propose adoption of the Q3 report.
Thank you. And the recommendations are to note that the 3.2 million pound forecast overspend is a reduction of 100,000 from Q2 and a reduction from 7.8 million originally in Q1, I think. To note the implementation of measures, including the report around recruitment, staffing and agency, but there's been some tremendous work done. And to note that we will continue to meet as a financial review panel. We've been meeting every Thursday since about July. I think we must have done about 30 of them now, and we will continue with that. And it is, at the moment, continues to be necessary. I hope it won't continue to be necessary as we feel we've got a grip on the finances. So I'm looking for you to note the recommendation. I think you proposed it. I'll second it. All those in favour. I beg your pardon. I've got some. Oh, I'm cutting to the chase too quickly. I'm going to go in alphabetic order because I didn't see how the hands went up unless somebody else did. I'm right then. Councillor Abbs first, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally empathise with the situation that the administration's in, and I'm just wondering whether or not we have information we could share with the public that if we were to take away the vast variables that are linked to social care, how accurate could our budgets then become? Because the reason for so much uncertainty is either inflation or the numbers that are coming in that we have no real control of. Do you have a feeling for how accurate a council could be if we weren't having to worry about that variable?
It's an interesting piece of work perhaps to do. And what you're flagging up is the unpredictability of some very, very expensive cases. And I'm grateful for you doing that. I'm not sure we've actually done that, re-engineering, Councillor Abbs, to say, well, we'd have been laughing if these people hadn't arrived. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you for that. I was really thinking about how we should be lobbying government to really take control of something that's their responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cottingham's ready to come back.
Yes, just in context, if we'd been in line with the original budget, with the projection of the actual number of units, number of clients, along with the unit cost, we would have had a £5 million underspend. So it would be literally we would have £5 million to be able to spend on other aspects of our services which we provide to the residents of West Berkshire.
Yeah, I'm not sure they understand the level of issue that we have in the way that it's funded.
Okay, points noted. Thank you. Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. I've got a few questions I'd like to put towards Councillor Cottingham. Good evening, Councillor Cottingham. Just that comment you made there about the accounts being externally audited. I just wanted to clarify what you meant when you referred to that. I mean, we know that the council's external facing financial statements are externally audited, but are you saying that the council's performance against the revenue budget should also be externally audited?
So just for clarification, so our formal accounts have not been externally audited for 2 years. So as you know, again, I'll get technical here. So within UK GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, that there may be certain interpretations of way in which certain transactions are being posted in between revenue and capital capex, which our auditors may disagree with. So I don't believe that there is that risk. I have every confidence in the ability of Joseph and his team, but it's just there as a caveat, the fact that when we do have our new auditors, KPMG, in effect, they're going to be having to take those opening balances on trust. And I think they have a 3-year program to actually almost unravel the opening balances to make sure that they're 100% confident on the completeness and integrity of the financial statements which we produce as a council. So it's more of a feedback observation over the fact that we've had external auditors in effect taking the money without providing service. So it's more of a criticism of Grant Thornton.
Okay, right. Okay, well, very bold of you to make that, but thanks for clarifying. Now, just on accounting policies, Councillor Cottingham, now you and I would like nothing more, I think, than to spend the evening talking about UK GAAP. But I do want to just ask one question. It's about the table at 5.3. I'm just flicking between my screens, and it's item 3 in that table, which is the review of the council's minimum revenue provision policy. MRP. Now, the explanation here is that there's proposed to be a change of policy to MRP at full council. And the benefit is quite substantial, isn't it? So in the right-hand side of that column, it says there's an in-year benefit of £4 million with a 24 to 25 benefit. I just wonder if there's text missing there. So the in-year benefit is 4 million. Is there a number for 24 to 25?
So yeah, so there will be a benefit in year in 23-24 of 4 million and a further 3 million benefit for next financial year as well.
Thank you. Now, what a substantial benefit that is. Now, that strikes me as a huge figure from a simple tweak to an accounting policy. And I think in this paper, all we see is that there'll be a change of policy to MRP. I wonder if you could clarify for those of us on Zoom and in the chamber and even the public who are listening, what are the potential downsides of that policy? Because a tweak to an accounting policy to generate millions for the revenue budget, why wasn't that done before? There must be a downside to this, or a potential downside. What is it, please?
So, in simplistic terms, what's happened is that there's been a very prudent approach on providing for MLP. So MLP, in essence, in layman's terms, is that you borrow a sum of money, and this is repaying the capital back over the period of the loan. So as you know, quite a substantial amount of our borrowings is over 50 years, and we have been quite aggressive in our provision of repaying that capital back in the early years. So we're actually quite much of an outlier when you look at ranking against other councils. So in essence, what we've done is we've taken the hit early in our financial statements to provide for that capital repayment. We've gone out to an external consultant to provide us with an overview stroke insight into our own policy. They've recommended us going to an annuity-based way of accounting for the revenue provision. And in fact, last week when I met with the auditors, KPMG, I actually said to them, can you please look at this to make sure that we are not an outlier the other way, that we're not being too aggressive in almost releasing 7 million back to our P&L this year and next year. So I take fully on board the fact that the risk that we could be seen of being under prudent, if that's a phrase. So yes, so we are looking to say, make sure that we are complying with accounting policy, but also make sure our auditors are happy that we have not been over aggressive by releasing too much MRP from previous revenue accounts.
Well, thanks for that comprehensive answer. I wonder if I could just push you on that to give a bit of a snappier one to this one. Are you saying that there's no potential downside to this policy at all?
Right. So, in effect, what we're doing is we are deferring the payment of MRP to the revenue accounts to later years. As you know yourself, the time value of money halves every 25 years. So in real terms, monies which we can defer for later years actually makes it cheaper for us to pay it back in real terms.
Councillor Cotting, I was teaching the time value of money to my class today. I'm actually in my office at work. So yeah, I'm delighted with that. Okay, look, thanks for that answer. Just one more from me, please, Chairman. It's just a little bit later on in the report, and we're all the way down to 5.32, talking about the Resources Directorate, and 5.32 tells us the Resources Directorate forecast is an overspend of £195. That is very specific. Is there a K? Or hopefully not an M missing.
Yeah, I think it's a K missing.
It's a K. So that's fine. I'm not in the business of picking up on typos, but just looking at the little graph over the page there, it shows the different elements of the Resources Directorate over and underspend. And I think this is important because when I add those numbers up, I don't get to 195k, I get to 222. I just wonder if you could explain what's going on there.
Just speaking to Joseph, we think it's the chief exec area has not been included in that graph, so apologies for the that being missed from that bar chart.
Yeah, no apology required. I just think it's important that when we're presenting these reports that they're as accurate as possible, so it helps us analyse them. But it's the chief executive is the difference. Okay, thanks very much. No more questions from me. Thank you, Chairman, and thanks, Councillor Cottingham and Mr. Holmes.
I think we're good then, and
So thank you very much, Councillor McKinnon, for your detailed questions. Thank you very much, and hopefully get well soon. I would hate to be able to know when you're on full capacity with the questions you've asked.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's get back to those noted items. The recommendation to note the 3.2 million forecast underspend, to note the implementation of measures included in the report around recruitment, staffing and agency spend, and to note the continuation of the financial review panel. That's proposed by Councillor Cottingham, seconded by me. All those in favour? Thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda is item 11. Councillor Macro will introduce the report on direct payment policy, please. Councillor Macro.
Thank you, Chair. So we got some feedback somewhere. Oh. Just bear with me a second. I think it's my that's better. If you look at, please, at the appendix, it does actually say what this policy is intended for. It's to make clear the council's approach to direct payments and the responsibilities of the direct payment recipients, and also the actual body of the report and section 5.3 background gives quite a long description of what direct payments are and why we need a policy. The council has been a bit remiss that they've found that the policy in place was only a draft, and this is to set that situation straight, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to propose that we adopt the policy and so on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Macro. Does that have a seconder?
It does indeed, Chairman. I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Gaines. Looking for questions on this policy. Any other comments from members of the executive? Questions? I'm looking around. I'm not getting them, and therefore I think I'm going to go straight to the recommendation that we adopt this policy. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. I think then I come to members' questions. And I'd like to thank members that have submitted questions. In the absence of the portfolio holder for planning and community engagement and the portfolio holder for public safety, written responses will be provided to member questions E, F, H, I, J, T, and V following the meeting. So I won't be referring to those in the body of the meeting again. And I'm moving, therefore, swiftly to question A, which is from Councillor Abbs to Councillor Lewis.
If I may, Chairman, we can skip by this. It's kind of an answer. There was an answer earlier in public questions that covers this. Don't need an answer. If you want to send me one in writing, that's fine.
I struggle to hear.
You don't need to answer it. Yeah, I think it's been answered earlier in the session. So,
thank you, Councillor Evans. That's very helpful. Right, B is from Councillor Wollaston, who I hope is now in the room or the external room, and that is again to Councillor Lewis.
Good evening, Councillor Wollaston. In response to your question, the Stage E review of the playing pitch strategy is very much a priority. A consultant has been procured to carry out the review, and the initial meeting has taken place. Once the review is completed, the action plan with an updated list of priorities will be published. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. I don't think you've actually answered the question. I said, can you confirm when it will be completed and when it will be published?
So it's only just gone out for procurement. We haven't got any dates back yet. We'll be following that up. As soon as we know anything, we can let you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It is clearly, I think, very urgent.
Thank you. The next one is Councillor McKinnon to Councillor Lewis.
Okay, good evening, Councillor McKinnon. In reference to the consultation, it draws a large response and attention from the public about poo bins and grass verge cutting. And the most important thing we do as council and as councillors is to keep people safe and well protected. Vulnerable people are at the top priority, and that is non-negotiable. As we spend enormous amounts of time and money managing the social care budgets, and which we are putting an extra 12.4 million into the coming budget year, subject to the budget being approved later this month, we must necessarily look carefully at every area of expenditure. We see that the issue around dog waste bins is important to people, and the response to the consultation reflected that. More people have dogs and want to walk them and clear their waste than people who are in need of social care. That is good to see. And I'm delighted that we've been able to avoid reducing dog waste and litter provision. With hindsight, I accept that my social media comment was showing my own emotions. I'm actually passionate that we have a fair and balanced approach to all services, including funding allocation, which officers and members work very hard at. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Councillor Lewis, and good evening to you as well. I just wondered if you could explain what you meant by your residents' expectation of these services as being a sad aspect of life. I don't think you addressed that one.
So again, this goes back to my own emotions, that we had a big response to the dog poo bins and not as big as a response to the adult care aspects. So we're trying to make sure that we can provide a service for everybody. And it was, I thought, unusual to see such a big response to the dog poo bins than there was to the care homes, for example.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Okay, I'm moving on to question D from Councillor Bowick. It's on the screen now. No, Councillor Bowick. My position is entirely lawful and proper under the Constitution. So I have no concerns about decisions being subject to challenge on that basis. Do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Leader. I think I rather suspect that the opinion that you've received on this question hangs on the interpretation of the word unable, where I believe the advice you've been given, or perhaps your interpretation, is that Councillor Dillon has been unable to deliver meet his duties as leader. Now, fully respect your interpretation, but I am absolutely certain that others may not, which could lead you to a challenge in the future. Why are you so certain, first of all, about your interpretation of the meaning unable, and secondly, that you won't face a challenge? Councillor Burke, I take advice on this. I take advice from the monitoring officer, and that is the advice I've been given, and the advice I've imparted to you, sir.
Thank you.
Councillor Abbs G to Councillor Lewis again.
So, Councillor Abbs, thank you for your question. So, a community forum was held in August 2023, and future options for the management of the pitch were raised, and informal meetings have been held to update the Newbury Community Football Group to hear about aspirations for the site. We are working with officers to consider options regarding the running of the football ground, and will be undertaking discussions by invitation late in the spring. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, so you mentioned Newbury Community Football Group there and that you consulted with them, but then you've gone on to say you're going to talk to others. Does that mean that they're not interested? in running it afterwards, or why are we suddenly going out when I thought we already had someone?
We are looking at the whole strategy as a whole, as we've mentioned. When it comes
Which whole strategy? Sorry,
to
I'm only talking about Faraday Road.
okay, so Faraday Road is one of many pitches, and it is part of the play pitch strategy.
Okay, no worries. We're going off topic. If you could answer the question about Faraday Road and who's running that when it's completed, that's all the question was. And the playing pitch strategy and its whole entirety wouldn't be relevant to the question asked. But thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Abbs. And I think we'll take that offline. There's some clarification you might wish to get from us by email. I think my next one is K, and that's you again, Councillor Abbs, to Councillor Gawley.
Thank you, Councillor Abbs, for your question. The waste team are aware of the importance of updating the waste journey. The team has been occupied with various urgent tasks recently, such as launching the 23-24 garden waste subscription service, completing budget proposals, which has required extensive data reviews by the team and undertaking relevant consultations related to that. And the team have also been helping flood-affected residents with waste collection service that have had to be rearranged. The good news is that we've been liaising with corporate comms colleagues and utilising the pause on this item to review how we can take your original proposal and link it with other educational media in a kind of holistic fashion. It's anticipated that the waste journey document will be completed in the coming weeks with a video of what happens to our waste with a tour of Padworth facility following after that. Do you have a supplementary question?
No, as long as it's weeks away, that's fine with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKinnon, I think, is the next one. L to Councillor Gawley again, please.
Thank you, Councillor McKinnon. Again, I hope you feel better soon. The council has worked tirelessly all hours of the week and weekends with council colleagues and members supporting their communities across the whole district, east to west, north to south, responding to the recent flood events. Teams across the council are continuing to work hard in conjunction with other authorities as some areas move from response to recovery. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, and thanks, Councillor Gurley, for your kind words. Should I take that as a no then? You were happy with the council's response over in the east of the district. I think for an executive member to publicly criticise the council, that must have, councillors must have felt very strongly, because that's a big deal to do that, I think. So are you happy that she was perhaps mistaken?
I'm happy that the council has worked tirelessly across all areas of the district to provide a response to the flood in conjunction with other authorities such as the Environment Agency and that of Thames Water. And I'll take the opportunity to highlight the fact that there is a current survey open for feedback that's been shared with flood wardens, ward members and parish and town councils for feedback on lessons learnt. So make sure that's shared with your residents, then we'll be able to capture some really good feedback.
Thanks, Councillor Gurley.
Thank you.
My next one is from Councillor Berwick, I think, to Councillor Conley.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your question, Councillor Berwick. I can assure you that the project at Falkland has not been delayed indefinitely. And I'll repeat what I said earlier to Mr. Davis. The project will be starting in this coming financial year, 24-25, and this will be the design phase, with the build expecting to start in the next financial year. Again, I will assure people here and to the school and teachers and parents that I personally will be keeping a close eye on this and getting regular updates. Again, it is important we achieve the new build as quickly as we can. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor Codling. And I'm encouraged by your response, first of all, to Mr. Davis' question and also to Councillor Marsh. So I'm really pleased to hear that you're able to prioritise the work that's been long outstanding at Falkland. My concern, though, is that well, I guess my question is why did it happen this way? It was the school was written to in October and told that because of the financial position of the council, all projects, including theirs, are submitted to a review panel for confirmation to proceed. And back then in October, they'd been told that it was going to be delayed indefinitely. Then we saw in the papers that it's been pushed back to 25, 26. And now this evening, it appears the decision's been made to bring it forwards. It's flopping around in the breeze like an old flag. So I guess my question to you, Councillor Codling, is what did you do to prioritise the needs of our children in schools? What did you do to challenge?
I think
Councillor Brooks, I'm modelling myself on you.
Well,
what did you do, Councillor Codling? Let's hear from.
Okay, I have reviewed the capital programme with Mr Lewis and with Anne-Marie Dodds about what schools need prioritisation. I have been to visit the school in the last couple of weeks to assure them that the project has not been cancelled. Is that sufficient?
Well, no, because the papers say it's been pushed back to 25, 26.
Sir, please don't model yourself on Jeff Brooks. He's one of a kind, and I wouldn't recommend you do that, sir. So I'm going to move on. To question N, and that's Councillor Abs.
Okay, cool. Thank you again, Councillor Abs, for the question. Officers are currently engaging with technical advisors to progress a feasibility study. It's anticipated the results of the study will be available during Q2 of 24-25, and we'll update you if there are any significant developments in this matter. Do you have a supplementary?
No, but I appreciate a chat with you sometime about the Lido and possible hydro project.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be good. Thank you.
And then Councillor Councillor McKinnon, question O.
I'd like to add my best wishes for a speedy recovery, Councillor McKinnon. Thank you for your question. The council is in a very difficult position financially, and many of the recently consulted upon savings have not been put forward lightly. We are going to have to take some very difficult decisions in order to set a balanced budget. We will, however, take on board the results of the recent consultation to residents and listen to those residents when making those decisions at the end of this month on the 29th. Do you have a supplementary?
Thanks, Councillor Gaines. And everyone seems to be wishing me well. Is this love bombing to try and take the sting out of my questions? Is that what's going on?
Absolutely. Oh.
You're all being very nice to me. Yeah, look, my supplementary really is, look, and again, this question has been a victim of the 10-day rule because we see from the budget papers now that that savings is not going to be taken. I just wonder, in hindsight, do you think you wish you hadn't proposed this as a potential saving, given the the serious flooding that we had?
It was only a reduction in the gully clearing, but everything's wonderful in hindsight, Councillor
McKinnon. Councillor Gaines, Kinnock. I've never been a Kinnock or a supporter of a Kinnock in my life.
You're going to have clan wars here if you're not careful, Councillor Gaines.
I'm really sorry. I actually had a chief RS who was called McKinnock, and you reminded me of him because he was also from Scotland.
I thought you were going to say tall and handsome, Councillor Gaines, but I'll take from Scotland. Okay.
And
that too.
Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon, if love bombing you helps the smooth running of the council meetings, it'll have had a good purpose. The next one up is P from Councillor Bowick. I'm going to take this. Thank you for your question. I think we've been providing assurance that this is an important capital project. And you will have heard the timescales we're working to from Councillor Codling in an early question and her answer to Mr Davis's question. There isn't much I'm able to add. It was perfectly reasonable, Councillor Bowick, and I probably recall in 2005, the Conservative administration, having just come into being, did the same. A review of the capital programme. It's perfectly reasonable. It was your capital programme. We wanted to just look through it and make sure that it was robust. And that is why it caused a slight delay, but you've had assurance this evening that we are watching this and prioritising it and telling the school that we're going about this as quickly as we can. Do you have a supplement?
Thank you. And I respect that, Councillor Brooks. I got that message loud and clear that you're prioritising. I'll go back to the point that I made to Councillor Codling, that you should, right from the get-go, have prioritised this. It appears as though you're responding to pressure. And you, Councillor Brooks, Deputy Leader, you have just the same degree of responsibility as Councillor Codling, as every other member of the executive, every other member of the council, to put children first. And I want your reassurance that you always will put children first.
Councillor Burke, I didn't really want to go into this, but you were the portfolio holder for Children's Services for several years. This project first came into being in 2021. We are in 2024. You had plenty of time to get some real revolution behind this project. We've had 9 months. I think there's a context there, sir, that you seem not to perhaps be appreciating. And I'm going to move on. Q, which is from Councillor Abs to
me.
Councillor Gaines.
Good evening, Councillor Abs, and thank you for your question. We are aware that the double socket EV charger in the Kennett Centre car park is not currently operational, and I apologise for any inconvenience this may be causing our residents and visitors. After several repairs, this BP Pulse charge point has now come to the end of its operational life. After considering options for the replacement of this charge point, we have opted to include it in the new contract for the delivery of the off-street charging points. I'm pleased to say that the council has now signed a contract with SWACO, who will now be focusing on delivering charge points in car parks and other community locations right across the district. This contract will run for 4 years, including the replacement of the Kennett Centre car park charge point in this contract, rather than conducting a completely separate procurement exercise just for that one item, and has resulted in effective use of officer time and will ultimately provide a better service to our customers by keeping the number of charge point operators to a minimum. The Kennett Centre car park will be a highly prioritised site. And unfortunately, at this particular point in time, I can't give an actual date to start. Do you have a supplementary?
That would have been my supplementary here. How quickly will it be delivered? But I guess a small comment then. Can we make sure we take account of the charge associated with the charging? Because that's a big determiner on how successful EV charging is. It's no good doing it like they do at the service station, which is 70, 80 pence per kilowatt hour. If we actually want to attract people or benefit people, we need to be nearer 30, 31. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I move on to R from Councillor McKinnon. The leader recently indicated that he would be taking a step back from his leadership duties due to time constraints. And although we have stated that he is taking a sabbatical, we have also made clear that he will continue to undertake all his duties as a councillor and as a member of this executive, albeit with a reduced portfolio. Under paragraph 3.3.2 of part 5 of the Constitution, it states that the deputy leader shall act in the leader's place if for any reason the leader is unable to act. I am therefore acting leader because the leader has indicated that he is unable to act. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, Councillor Brooks, and thank you for that. And I can assure you that there is a supplementary here, but there's just going to be a bit of a preamble. It's not a statement, it's just important background. So you cited the Constitution there, and in the preceding section relating to the leader, the Constitution is quite clear that the leader can only leave office if he's removed by resolution of council, if he loses local elections and is no longer entitled to act, or if he resigns. Now, none of those things have happened. So constitutionally, Councillor Dillon remains the leader of the council. And this is important, I think, because there's a great deal of confusion that's been introduced here, and I think unnecessary confusion about just who remains the leader and who isn't. And you as styled acting leader, Do you have the authority to act as the leader when the leader, Councillor Dillon, remains in place? And I'll give you an example of that, and my question will come immediately afterwards. The Constitution requires, there's recently been a change in the executive. The Constitution requires the leader to give written notification to the chief executive about such a change. And my supplementary question is, can you confirm that Councillor Dillon gave that written notification? I hope the answer is yes, because if that wasn't given, then the validity of that executive appointment could be called into question, as could any individual decisions made by an executive member who's been appointed in such a way. That's an example of the confusion that this is caused. It would seem to me perfectly much more preferable if the leader had resigned and gone to do what he wants to do, and when he's decided he wants to come back, it's up to your group to decide if he wants him back. That's clear, and everyone knows where they are. So I'll repeat my question, because that was a bit of a long-winded one, and I thank you for letting me deliver it. Did Councillor Dillon provide that written notification to the Chief Executive?
I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to take this and just answer you in this way. I think it will be up to the Liberal Democrat group to decide who their leader is rather than the opposition, if you don't mind. But I'm bringing in monitoring officer.
Thank you. So you are correct that Councillor Dillon remains the elected leader of West Berkshire Council, and Councillor Dillon did indeed confirm the recent changes to the membership of the executive. However, Councillor Dillon has given, in effect, his apologies tonight, and in accordance with the Constitution and indeed the Local Government Act 2000, Councillor Brooks is here in place as the acting leader because of his statutory appointment as the deputy leader of this council.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we'll move on to question S, which is Adrian Abbs, to Councillor Gawley again. Thank you.
Yep, thank you again for the question, Councillor Abbs. The council-controlled electric vehicle charging infrastructure contracts within the district are competitively procured in line with the existing public contract regulations and applicable council guidance. The arrangements with the charge point operators will vary between contracts, mainly due to what funding is being used and any conditions of that funding. However, delivering value for money for the end user is an objective across any contract for delivery of our charge points. Benchmarking was carried out to ensure that our rates are set competitively and, where possible, deliver best value for money for our customers and our residents. Our rates are set annually through the council's fees and charges setting process. Whilst we are unable to comment on the break-even costs, the council needs to, as a minimum, cover the cost of the electricity and generate a contribution to the ongoing maintenance of the charge points. Do you have a supplementary question?
No, but I kind of. You see, I just want your confirmation that you are understanding why I am asking you to focus on minimising the cost per kilowatt hours, and that many, especially charging points in car parks, have the supplementary amount of actually parking as well. But if we don't control, or at least our estate, if we don't control the cost within our estate, and we just go and say, well, what's the competitive landscape looks like? Well, if everybody starts, so how much money can I make on this rather than how clean can I make the air? You end up saying, well, the competitive market sits at some very much higher rate. Great, we can make some money out of it. That wouldn't be the point of going to an EV strategy and charging in town centres. That would be to deliver cleaner air to the town centre. So the reason for the question is to really bring out or tease out that whenever we do a vision of things that we control, that we make sure we take both aspects into account: the size, the location, the cost, so that we are encouraging as many clean air areas as possible. Clean air areas, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think there's an area to look at with regards to central government around the difference between the VAT rates paid on street versus off street parking as well. And I think there's a part to play there around minimising that impact to make people, give people the opportunity again to do the right thing. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.
And then I think my final one is Councillor McKinnon again. Councillor Gaines. Over to you, councillor Gaines.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor McKinnon. I'm aware our contractor attended site within our response times to make this safe, but found that it was not possible as there was water running through the defect from a nearby BT chamber. Under these circumstances, it would not be practical to try to fix the defect as it would fail. Signing and guarding was erected around the pothole whilst the solution was found to prevent the water flowing. A repair was implemented as soon as the water was diverted away from the defect. I'm sure you appreciate that this type of issue has been all too common on the highway network recently due to the widespread flooding, and this has been a particularly challenging time, especially during that period, for highways officers and our contractor. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, thanks, Councillor Gaines. And look, if it helps in future, just call me Ross, it's fine. I had to wait 5 days for a reply, and I chased twice in that time, and I didn't hear anything until the afternoon, the morning, the 24th. Do you think that's good enough, Councillor Gaines?
As I did say, actually, it was through the most challenging period of time with the flooding. That weekend and the day before was actually the height of the floods. So, whilst it probably isn't acceptable, I wasn't sure if you actually wanted me to respond to this because, as I said, I mean, I can't go and fix potholes. I did take a note of your email. I was in touch with John, but as I said, they did go and make that pothole safe by actually putting guards around it to ensure that people didn't have any more accidents, and they did fix it as soon as possible.
Thanks, Councillor Gaines.
I think that takes us through the part one aspect of the meeting, and I'm moving into part two with exclusion of the public, item 13. I'm asking members to agree by voting that the press and public leave the room in accordance with Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Good to see you. And